Hey, so first thing first, I wanted to make sure I gave my dues and made sure I thank Marcin Tyrakowski for doing this sweet art for my official YouTube channel, and it looks amazing, and I love it, and if you want to get something from him, you should go ahead and check him out. Link in the description below. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with today's hobby wisdom number 4 with the Knochengeist.
Onward, brothers!
So, first things first. I got like 3 noxious Blightbringers, which is the intention of today's episode. Taking a miniature that you may have multiples of, especially if you bought a whole bunch of No Fears or Dark Imperium boxes. You got a bunch of these guys lying around, and they all look exactly the same because they're all monopose, which, you know, fine. They tend to be sometimes easier to put together, and I can't fault GW for wanting to do that. But sometimes you want to make something different, and, you know, an idea starts to get to you, and you kind of fiddle around with the stuff trying to make it work or see what can fix there. And basically what I wanted to do was, I had this idea of replacing his plasma gun and his small bell with the relic, from 8th edition, which was able to give everyone around you an aura of invulnerable save, which I thought was great. I loved it, and I wanted to make a specific build for him to show that relic. So I was like, yeah, I can have Blightbringer, but also I can have Blightbringer with that relic, and that was the intention of this build. So I really wanted to make sure that I had a different profile for him, a different look from away, like farther away. And of course, you have to do the standard trimming, cleaning, scraping, mold lines, and getting rid of those nubby bit edges, which, you know, just, it's part of the hobby, guys. You just gotta, you don't have to do it. I mean, I obviously didn't do it for all my Grey Knights, and, you know, as you get further into it, you're like, well, maybe I should this time, or maybe I will this time, whatever you finally feel like, or you don't, you know, whatever. But I ended up clipping up all the sensors off of him, and ended up using them in a different part of the build later on that you'll see. But to start off, I just wanted to make it as dynamic a difference for the overall picture of this silhouette of this model than what was there previously. So I wanted to make sure I didn't have that small little melee bell weapon. I wanted to make sure I didn't have the horn and the bell growing in the back, even though it's iconic. Because it's iconic, it's a curse, you have to get rid of it. So I was very careful to remove those bits, because maybe I'll use them for a different person later on, trimming them as carefully as I could. Didn't have my hobby knife, didn't know where it was, so we're just gonna do everything like a madman, like an absolute just. So because I had another Lord of Contagion, I thought it'd be best if I took his weapon that I'll replace with some bits later on, and use that as the standard for this Daemon toll that I'm going to use as a 2-handed maul-like bell. Daemon toll, that's the relic's name, Daemon toll. And, you know, I started fiddling with the bell that was on the bone. I was like, well, maybe I can, you know, use this axe the base, and that didn't feel right, didn't look right, didn't feel right. So I was like, maybe the answer to this is, you know, just take off the bell and use the bell as the bell end of this weapon, and it's just a big old mace or a maul in that sense. But you'll see that I ultimately decide, instead of doing anything like that, I'm just going to make my own, because I am an absolute mad lad, and, you know, I took a lot of sculpting classes in college, and I thought, how long has it been? It doesn't matter, I can do it, right? Now, the problem with that is your fingers get really fat. A little difficult to, you know, sculpt something freeform with no assistance, and, you know, I'm just, like, forgetting how a bell looks and how it's constructed. So I started off with a flat piece of green stuff, and as you can see, I'm making it too thin. Obviously, that's a problem, right? Can't get that consistency. So I'm thinking, well, plus my hands are sticking and I have to keep getting them wet. But what if I, you know, stretch it out and get more of a bell shape here, and I'm going 2-dimensional, right? You don't go 2-dimensional when you're modeling something in 3 dimensions, right? You got to think about it 3D. And I just refuse to use my brain in more than a syllable at a time when I'm doing hobby stuff. So I kept it 2D, very 2D for a very long time. And I thought, well, what if I just, wrap it around my finger as a base for the opening, right? I just gotta make it like a thimble, and then just widen it out, right? That'll work. And as you can see, I'm kind of getting a bell bottom look to it, but the top is just a bad time. And it doesn't matter how much fiddling and molding with it. It still looks like it's just a weird thimble on the tip of my finger. So I think, well, what if I start with the actual weapon itself and I build it off of that, right? Just kind of like attach it to it, and then we'll get that small attachment that you have. That's where the bell starts. You have the handle for it, right? And you got the tip of it, the base of it that connects to the handle, right? Okay, kind of like a reverse. Looks like a mushroom right now, but I was trying to go for a reverse mushroom. And I just gotta make it attach first, smooth it out, attach it, and then we'll. At the time, I was thinking I'll just push my finger right into it, and that's how I'll get that bell shape, right? But as you can see, it's kind of small amount, and it's really not working the way I want. I'm actually pushing it further and further down that piece, what's going to be the stave of this weapon. And then I think, well, what if I just, kind of attach it in there with the bell, and maybe that'll work. But, that's not working. It's getting way too dry. So now I'm like, well, what if I just try to go at it more two-dimensional again, right? I stick it on there, and I just pull out, until I eventually have this stretched out bell shape is the idea, but it's kind of looking more like a flower at the moment, or a flipped up umbrella. So I come back at it a different day. I eventually get a bell situated, and I've got pieces split up, so it's time to start put them all together, making them all into one cohesive, hopefully, thing. There's my bell. There's the basis of the bell anyway, with a stupid mushroom. But you know what? I have this idea of using the sensors and putting them inside as the internal part of the bell that actually makes a ding 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 kind of noise thing. And then I think, well, what if I start roughing up this texture to make it look like it's made out of meat, like it's an actual weapon with a demon inside of it, a Daemon weapon, why not? So immediately after that, I decide, well, I'm going to go ahead and just start putting stuff together and see where I go. So I've taken off the two hands, right? But I think maybe I'll keep this silhouette. Keep the Nurgle, the little Lord on the side, and I'll keep the bell on top. But because I love that bell, it's a great part of the model, and I really like the bone because it fits in with the theme of Knochengeist, which is German for bone ghost. And even though I don't got a lot of ghost, I got a lot of bones in here, so I gotta keep as many bones as I have. But ultimately, I'm like, no, too much of a similar silhouette to the other two that I have, so they just gotta go. Obviously, I'm gonna use this little lord later, because it's a beautiful little nurgling, and every little nurgling you get, you keep. Little green stuff right here to keep that hand. That hand's supposed to be that direction, because he's holding it a certain direction to be able to swing that thing, right? That's going to be more or less the controlling hand. So I guess this Noxus Blightbringer's left-handed. Well, I guess they're all ambidextrous because they're all Space Marines. But as you can see, I also cut off that bone with the bell attached. And now I'm just trying to make it to where I can fit what I have as best as I can, right? You got to get those fittings as close as you can, as good as you can. And I'm just slowly, deliberately trying to scrape as I can, cleaning up it as best I can. And here I realized, I gotta keep that bell look to it, and right now it just looks like a shroom, and I gotta get a way to affix the real mainstay of what I'm doing, which is I'm adding those sensors to the bell to make it kind of like this mace flail weapon. I figure, yeah, ultimately it's a bell, and it's gonna be doing a lot of gung, 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 gung as he's swinging it around, hitting people. And while, yeah, that's good for concussive work, a bell generally is made out of more softer elements. So the flails are what's really going to be doing the damage. And also they kind of just make this cacophony of weird noise having this weapon out. And then I think of a great idea of how I'm going to get this to be different. I'm going to make a cape. I'm going to make a half cape for the back. That's going to give him this dynamic silhouette that'll make him look drastically different from what he did before. A cape of skin. It'll be beautiful. Yes, it's nurgly, it's deathy, it's just coming up with adjectives that don't, and adverbs that aren't really words, to describe what I'm hoping will have this macabre feeling to it. And I'm trying to get as much as my fingerprints on here because I'm trying to make it look like it's actually skin. I don't know if it'll save like that when it dries, but that's the intention of what I'm doing right here. So I'm just kind of slopping it on there, hoping that it'll dry. And the rip here is actually intentional to show that, you know, skin can be damaged. It's just made out of stitched together skin. And then ultimately I realized that's just not gonna work the way I want it because it's too difficult to dry like that. So instead I opt for a very different looking bone aperture coming out that'll give them a very obvious difference in silhouette and still keeps the theme of bone. And I'm hoping that this will sculpt out pretty easily because I don't have any apertures underneath to actually base it off of, so I'm making it thicker than I probably would normally do it if I had the stuff I wanted, but I was not going to let that damn me. And I'm just trying to get as much texture on the bones and on the skin as possible. And I had a little bit of extra plastic, hard plastic from some of my stuff. I figured why not giving him a little bit of a base. And as you can see here, on the other side, I've decided to do some hot glue to give him some, what looks like just bile or goo or something like that. And ultimately, you got to come with some paint after that. And once again, I'm still going for white as my base color. Skull white is the intention. And that's the armor. It's going to be paler, but I tried to give some like necrosis kind of color to the skin and his cloth, which I had an idea of he's just taking skin off of his enemies or fighters that he's killed. And that's what we end with. We end with what looks like, you know, hopefully some bone and some gooey bits. The very disgusting, dirty, patchy bell with weapons wrapped in just who knows what. I haven't really done any basing for it other than just kind of coloring that stuff green. I'm probably going to do more of a boggy stuff later, but hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys had some good times, had some fun, and I still don't know how to end videos.